Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today I'm fired up about my guest. We have author Lauren Wantz on today, and the title of her book is Providence. Now, I love it. I love a book that has a great title to it. Don't you? I know. It's just so intriguing, and it really and truly pulls you in. You're excited to, you know what I'm going to say, get comfy or get cozy, to get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Lauren. Thank you so much for being on with me today.
No, thank you.
I am so excited to talk to you about your book. But before we do, I just want to ask, and this is a question that I ask of all my guests, and that is, what makes Lauren Lauren? What are some things that you've done that have helped you become the woman that you are today?
Well, what makes me me mostly is my eccentricity. I'm a bit of an eccentric, and I always have been, but I've been through quite a lot. I've suffered from mental illness my whole life, and I grew up in an abusive home, and I've been in several abusive relationships, but I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, because it's made me extremely strong. And you know, I always thought I was weak and a coward, but now I realize that I could pretty much survive anything, and it's made me a lot wiser too. So I don't really regret any of it.
You know, and thank you so much for saying that, because I think that women of today are experiencing a freedom, if you will, that perhaps our mothers and grandmothers were not able to experience. And I'm talking about getting out of an abusive relationship and no longer having to hold or carry a stigma or a sense of shame about that, because it's not our issue. It's that person's issue. It's their inability to do something and not ours. So bravo for realizing that it doesn't make you less than, and that now you're a stronger person for having survived that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh,
now,
no problem.
With everything that you have been able to accomplish, did you know that being an author was something that you wanted to do?
Absolutely. For pretty much my entire life, I've wanted to be an author. As soon as I was able to read, I knew that was what I wanted to do for a living.
Do you remember at what age you were when you realized that words have power, that they can, you know, help your imagination soar, that they can express so much? Was there a particular time? Was it, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school? Do you remember?
It started in elementary school, and it got more intricate as I got older. I started realizing how important it was as I got older, and there was a moment when I was in high school. We did our multi-genre research project on a book. I did A Streetcar Named Desire, and you know, you could do creative things with that. And I wrote a couple poems. I read my poems in front of the class, and everybody, not to be arrogant, but everybody was kind of stunned silent, and that made me that made me realize, like, okay, it's not a delusion of grandeur. This is something I really am good at. But
No, I can understand, and especially, like you said, those high school years, I mean, that can be tough. You know, teenagers can be rough with each other. And if they were impressed, like you said, you knew that you were onto something, that it's not just, you know, because sometimes friends and family can just be kind, and they're like, oh, that was good. And it may not be published worthy yet, but they're like, that was good. But, you know, high schoolers are going to be like, yikes, if they disagree. So I'm glad that you got that prompting. Now, the book Providence, I absolutely love the title. The question that I ask everyone is, did you find that the title came to you first and you wrote around the title, or did the title kind of come out of your writings? How did you come up with such a beautiful title?
Well, the title actually did come first. Originally this novel was just a short story that I actually never finished because I was only 15 and I wasn't great at finishing writing yet because my attention span hadn't developed yet, and it was supposed to be just a short story. And the main character is named Providence, and that's why the book is called Providence. It started out a short story about a scientist, and I named him Providence Stranger because he starts out the book as an atheist, and so that's a stranger to Providence. That's why I called him that. And so yes, the title did come first.
I love that. I love that. Now, what do you, looking back perhaps, did you find that you had a particular motivation in writing the book and making sure that it became a published work?
Absolutely. What got me to start writing it, I had only written 2 other novels previously. And I actually quit writing, I thought, for good for an entire year. This year was the worst year of my life. I have bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and they were both at their worst during this time. Yeah. And this was when I was in the abusive relationship as well, so that wasn't helping. And I'd actually almost completely stopped speaking because I was so deep in my psychosis. And finally, I got a therapist who just kind of woke me up from my stupor. She told me, if you keep going on like this, you're going to die. And I heard that, and it was kind of like a smack in the face. And it had been strange because the whole year I had wanted to die, like I'd tried to kill myself twice. But then hearing that it might actually really happen, I was just like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. And so I was like, well, I need to, my therapist also said, I think you're an artist, and so I think you should do creative work that will make you feel better. And so I thought about that short story I never finished, and I was like, well, I could turn it into a whole novel, and I just started writing it. And it was like breathing fresh air for the first time after a long time.
Yes. I'm so glad that she was able to see that in you. And listeners, you guys have heard me say that it is so important to have the right therapist, that the relationship that you have with your therapist can really and truly change your life for the better. And we hear an example of that right now. I'm so glad that you were able to literally find your voice again, but to also be able to share your writer's voice with the world. I'm so glad that you're doing better now. Now, there are so many challenges when it comes to writing in general. There's challenges when it comes to getting your book published and all of the ups and downs and rounds that come with that. Did you find that there were any challenges that you had to deal with, either with the writing process or the publishing process? How did yours go?
Well, honestly, I think the writing process is actually easier, but the publishing process is very difficult. And I've mostly been through self-publishers, and I really appreciate what they've done for me, publishing my book. But it's a lot of money, and most of them really don't even care about the quality of the book. They just publish it because you're giving them money. And so, and I've had a very hard time marketing and selling my books because, I'm a reclusive person, being a writer. I'm not good at self-promotion, and so yes, publishing has been very challenging. But
and it's so interesting because I've had so many people say that they said, hey, the writing was the easy part, and I go, well, that's because you're a writer, and it's like, so it just kind of flowed out of you, and then you step into this world where you're totally unfamiliar, and for some things you're just naive about it, You try to make the best decisions when it comes to the options that are put before you. And I think it's a place to grow and to learn, just like it is with any other industry. I believe people say the same thing in the music industry. It's like, boy, was I green, on my first CD, but by the time my fifth CD came out, I was a pro at this. I wasn't accepting or doing things the same way that I did when I was a newbie or a rookie at doing it. So I can definitely understand that. And you mentioned self-publishing, and I'm so glad that is an option, because there are so many authors that if they were waiting for a publishing house to pick up their book, it may have taken so much longer for us to get access to these very, very great books. So I'm glad that you chose to step out and go on and self-publish. Because I believe in flip sides of the coin, always. There's going to be, some ups and some downs. So the flip side of it is, were there any moments that you found were happy moments, or it was, oh, yay, there's a relief that actually went through as planned? Like, how did you feel when you had a copy of your book in your hands?
Oh, yes, it was wonderful. And the first time I published, I didn't know what to expect, but I was certainly happy. And every time I've published, I've gotten that kind of adrenaline rush from it.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I have to agree with you. And one of the things I remember when I was getting a report from book sales, and I was so used to seeing book sales just all in American dollars. And the first time I saw an international sale was just so exciting, because I went, oh my goodness, look at that, that's not $1. And it was, and I had to call my mother and let her know, and she was, so proud, and she's like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, it's funny how it could be the smallest of things, but it could really be that thing that really keeps us going, that keeps the energy in us going, so that we can definitely write some more. I love it. Well, it is almost time for us to go to break, Lauren, but before we do, if you could please, can you remind everyone of 3 things, or inform them of 3 things? The title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes. The title of the book is Providence. You can find it on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or the publisher's website, Page Publishing. And you can contact me via email. My email is somethingvaudeville@yahoo.com.
All righty, listeners. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. My guest today is Lauren Wantz, and she is talking about her book, Providence. And I love the title of the book. So, Lauren, one question that I have for you is about the message, or a nugget of wisdom, as I like to call it. When you were writing the book, is there anything in particular you wanted for the reader to learn or to remember when they finally turn to that last page?
Yes. I like to call it the spine of a novel, like its overall major theme, and I get to it more towards the end. But basically the 2 main characters in this book are reluctant messiahs who are having to repeat. The female version is having to repeat the history of Joan of Arc, and then Providence Stranger is having to repeat the history of Jesus Christ. And I get to a point in the book where Providence says, the old Karl Marx quote, history repeats itself, first as tragedy, then as farce. And he says that they were farce. And I think the whole point that I was trying to make with that is that it's true history does repeat itself versus tragedy than as farce, but I think actually the farcical repetition is more tragic because at least tragedy has some meaning and farce doesn't. And I think that was the overall message of my book.
I love that. I love that. Now, so many times when we are in a bookstore, I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to reading books. I still like to go to my local, Barnes & Noble or bookstore or whatever, and leave the store with a tangible book. Don't get me wrong. I also have a really great relationship with my Amazon Prime person who drops off stuff for me and ordering, Kindle and all of that, the Kindle version as well. But when it comes to choosing a book, when we're in the store, we do judge a book by its cover. Unfortunately, we do, kind of eyeball them all when we're just in general looking for a good book. Or be it that we are, online and trying to figure out which one do we want to add to our basket. My question for you is what do you think makes your book stand out from the rest? What makes yours unique or different or gives it that extra little pop that says, hey, pick me?
Well, it does have a very interesting cover. I don't know if you've seen the cover or not, but that was all my friends thought it was funny. I showed them the copy of the book, and they were like, this cover was definitely your idea. And I was like, yes. But the cover is a picture of a man being crucified on an ankh, which is the Egyptian symbol of eternal life. It's basically their crucifix. And so I thought maybe the cover will be able to draw people in, but I'm not really. I think what's unique and special about the book is I'm not sure if I have a very good style or even if I'm a good writer, but I do know that my stuff is unique. That maybe it's a good thing people have never written like this before, but people have never written like this before, I believe.
I love it. She says, yeah, it's different, totally different. But, I think that people have an appreciation for, even if it's different, that it's authentic, because there have been things that I have come across and I say, well, it's not for me, but I appreciate the point of view. Or, it was a decent read. I wouldn't have usually have chosen this or selected this particular item or thing or whatever it is, but I'm not disappointed. And I think that for so many people, especially when it comes to books, if you're a reader, if you really just love and appreciate reading books, then you appreciate a really good story. So the fact that yours is unique and it's different, it kind of helps break up the monotony of everything else. I had an author on one time where she said the same thing. She was at a book expo, and someone said, well, your writing style is just not right. You start sentences with and because and, all these conjunctions and, who does that? And she says, well, I am doing really, really good with my book, And she showed her book reviews, and I mean, she had hundreds of book reviews, and they were majority 5 and 4 stars. And she says, there's someone who appreciates what I do, that they like, my style. Sorry if it wasn't for you, but, thank you for the purchase nonetheless. And I went, people have to understand that not everything is for everyone, but something is for someone. So I like the fact that it's different and it's unique. Great. That's awesome. Now, for some people, reading is something that they have discovered on their own. Like they didn't necessarily inherit it, if you will, from a parent, or they have kids and they're not necessarily trying to pass on a love of reading to their children. But what advice can you give to the next generation, to a younger generation, when it comes to, writing or sharing your story or just being yourself, about being authentic? What are your words of wisdom?
Well, definitely the first thing I would say, I feel like smartphones and Facebook have gotten my entire generation to stop reading. And I mean, you you really can't write if you don't read. I mean, it's narcissistic to do that. It's narcissistic to be a writer who doesn't read.
Yeah.
And so that would be my main point, is you got to read. And yeah, also like you said, being authentic. I do feel like, even, you know, most of the people I'm around are part of the counterculture, but even them, I feel like they're just, you know, carbon copies of each other, just who listen to Joy Division instead of, you know, something on the radio. And so, yeah, I mean, I am pretty harsh on my generation, and sometimes I feel guilty about it, but I am a little disappointed. I am a little disappointed in what we're doing right now. It feels like we're not doing anything, especially artistically. All of these great artists have been dying, and there hasn't been anyone to take their place. And so yeah, I would definitely advise my generation, read more, don't be on social media so much, because I mean, basically Facebook is just like a narcissist playground. I mean, you know, it's just but so I feel like it's sucking out people's souls, and just so I would advise so yeah, I would advise, read more, get off social media, try to be a little bit more authentic, and just be yourself at absolutely all costs, because you know a lot of people aren't going to like that, but those are the people that you don't need in your life. So
that was those were a few bits of wisdom. That was a lot of gold there, because I hear what you're saying. And, you know, we do need, for someone that's like, listen, Dr. Angela, I don't care what you or Lauren say, I love Facebook. Well, you know, that's true. We all need, you know, our Facebook in our life. I get that. But at the same time, I think that we do need to learn how to have everything in balance. And I believe that there needs to be certain parts of our day, as well as certain parts of our week, where we step back from that. One day that I have personally, and I'm not, you know, trying to force this on anyone, but Sunday is my day where I put my phone down. You know, I kind of disconnect from the virtual world, and I reconnect with my reality. And that's the day that we do a lot of family things, that we sit down and do old-fashioned, come sit next to me and tell me how your day is, as opposed to checking in with everyone via text message or on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. You know, that we kind of disconnect and just kind of have that real world time with each other. And then come Monday, we're right back at it, and we are back on the social media train. And it's hard sometimes, because, you know, having your own business, social media is a part of the vein of my existence. It is a part of my business. But again, you do have to learn how to step back and be able to just take a breath. Your other bit that I loved was, you have to read other people's stuff too. You can't just write your own, but you have to read other people's stuff too. That is a nugget. Absolutely true. I had an uncle that told me to read everything. You know, there's no reason to ever be bored if there's a book or a magazine around. If, you know, even if it's a little ticker tape at the bottom of the news, you know, read it and gather that information. So I love that. I love that. Now, when it comes to future projects, I always like to ask my authors, like, are you done? Do you think that this was your last book? Or do you feel that there's, you know, a future book in you?
Oh, I intend to die writing my last novel.
I love it. Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, I've actually published several other books besides Providence. I've published a book called Disapora, Gymnopody, The Hungarian Suicide Song, El Yermo, and the Divine Tragedy. And I actually just finished a novel yesterday, and I've already started another one. But my favorite writer is Philip K. Dick, and he wrote 35 novels, and I'm trying to write at least 35 novels before I die.
Nice. I love it. see, a woman with a goal. I'm digging it. I love that. I love that because that challenges us, that pushes us. And even if no one else ever says anything to you, you already know, okay, this is book number 12. I have to keep writing. There's no time to be, relaxing in the 12 that I've written. I have a goal to make. I love it. That's self-motivation. I'm a self-motivated person. I appreciate the accolades of others, but I too am that type, as long as I have a whiteboard, a dry erase marker, some paper and pen, and a laptop, or even my phone, it's like we're going to go out and make it happen. And you can just keep looking at the things that you've done and use any past accomplishment to just be the fuel to keep you going to the next step and keep going. That was an amazing little tidbit. I hope my budding entrepreneurs out there, be it that you are a novelist or you want to open a hair salon, whatever it is, that helped inspire you. Keep going. Who is someone who inspires you? So I love it. What a great way to end the show. Thank you, Lauren. You didn't even know it. But that was the last question of the day, and what a great note to end that on. But before we go, if you could please, can you remind everyone last time, what's the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure. The name of the book is Providence. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or the publisher's website, Page Publishing. And you can get hold of me at somethingvaudeville@yahoo.com.
Thank you, Lauren Wantz. Thank you so much for being on and spending time with us today and dropping those nuggets of wisdom for my audience. Thank you so much. I enjoyed our time together.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you for spending time with us today. We hope that you have been enlightened, inspired, and empowered to become your best self. As always, may God continue to shine His grace and mercy upon you. May you have His face with you in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.